Hey everyone, imagine this for a second. You're trying to get something important done, maybe finish a big project, spend quality time with your family, or just unwind after a long day. But then ding, a notification pops up, or maybe you just feel that little itch. That urge to check something, anything else. Before you know it, an hour has vanished, and you're left wondering, how did I even get here? Sound familiar? Because it certainly did for me. That's why I picked up this incredible book, Indistractable: How to Control Your Attention and Choose Your Life by Dear L. You might know Mir from his previous book, Hooked: How to Build Habit-Forming Products, which ironically explain how tech companies get us hooked in the first place. But this time, he's back with the antidote, and let me tell you, it's a game changer. People like Jonathan Haidt call it essential reading, and Adam Grant says it's full of actionable ideas. Even the founder of the Huffington Post, Arianna Huffington, considers it the best guide for reclaiming our attention. It really feels like he's on a mission to help us out. When Neil argues, and what truly blew my mind, is that being indistractable isn't about being a Luddite or ditching all your tech. Far from it, is that it's about learning to control your attention so you can choose your life. It's about taking back the reins. Putting humans back in the cockpit of our own lives when it comes to distraction. Neil lays out a brilliant four-part model, like a map to guide us. He calls it the Indistractable model, and it starts deep within us, then moves outward, getting more actionable with each step. So let's dive in. The first part, and arguably the most foundational, is all about mastering internal triggers. You see, we often blame our phones or social media for distracting us, right? But Neil says that's like blaming a pedometer for making someone climb too many stairs. He shares this wild story about Zoe Chance, a professor who became obsessed with her smart pedometer, walking miles in circles, even up her basement stairs in the middle of the night, neglecting her family and work. What was really going on? She was trying to escape intense stress from her job and a failing marriage. This is the big reveal: distraction is always an unhealthy escape from discomfort. Everything we do, whether it's scrolling endlessly or biting our nails, is ultimately driven by the desire to free ourselves from some kind of pain or uneasiness. Think about it: boredom, negativity bias, rumination, hedonic adaptation. These are all natural human tendencies that make us perpetually restless and searching for escape. That feeling of needing to check your phone just for a second often comes from a subtle internal trigger, like anxiety, restlessness, or even feeling incompetent. So, if distraction costs us time, then time management is actually pain management. So, if feeling that isn't actually bad, but totally normal, what do we do about it? Neil suggests we reimagine these internal triggers rather than trying to suppress them, because as studies show, trying not to think about a white bear just makes you think about it more. Instead, he proposes 4 steps. First, look for the discomfort that precedes the distraction, that anxious feeling, that craving. Second, write down the trigger, noting the time and how you felt. Third, explore your sensations with curiosity rather than judgment. He even suggests imagining your thoughts as leaves on a stream, just floating by. And fourth, be super careful during liminal moments, those little transitions like waiting for a light to change or a page to load. That's when we're most vulnerable to mindlessly grabbing our phones. His 10-minute rule for these moments is a lifesaver. Tell yourself it's okay to give in, but only after 10 minutes. Often, the urge passes. Beyond internal triggers, we also need to reimagine the task itself. Ever wonder why some people love super tedious hobbies like perfecting coffee or intricately quilting? Ian Bogost, a professor who studies fun, says fun is the aftermath of deliberately manipulating a familiar situation in a new way. We can apply this to our work. Instead of running from discomfort, we can find novelty and challenge within the task, turning it into a game. It's about focusing so intensely that you uncover new layers of engagement, using the same variable rewards that keep us hooked to social media to keep us hooked on our work. And finally, to master internal triggers, we must reimagine our temperament. Neil says we often think willpower is a limited resource that runs out, a concept called ego depletion, but he presents research from Carol Dweck that shows this isn't true. Willpower is only limited if we believe it is. He emphasizes that labeling yourself as easily distracted or having poor self-control is self-defeating. Instead, practicing self-compassion, talking to yourself like a friend helps us bounce back from setbacks and build resilience. Now, on to part 2, making time for traction. This is crucial because you can't call something a distraction unless you know what it's distracting you from. Near argues against the common to-do list, which he calls seriously flawed because tasks just get pushed around. Instead, he champions time boxing, which means actively scheduling every minute of your day based on your values. He simplifies our lives into 3 core domains: relationships and work. We need to literally block out time for all 3. For you time, it's about prioritizing self-care, sleep, exercise, reading. He shares his soul struggle with sleepless nights and how he learned to focus on the input, being in bed ready to sleep rather than the outcome, actually falling asleep, telling himself the body gets what the body needs. For relationships, he talks about his fun jar with his daughter and how he and his wife time box their shared household chores to ensure equality. This resonates so much because our loved ones deserve more than whatever time is left over. For work, it's about systening your time box schedule with your manager and colleagues to create transparency and ensure you're working on priorities. Next up is part 3, hacking back external triggers. These are the pain stains and rings from our devices, or even chatty coworkers. Near says we need to ask ourselves a critical question for every external trigger: is this trigger serving me, or am I serving it? He then gives tons of practical hacks for work interruptions. He suggests using a physical "I need to focus right now" sign on your monitor, like a sterile cockpit rule for your desk, inspired by nurses wearing "Do not interrupt" vests in hospitals to reduce medication errors. For email, he breaks it down with TT total time equals number of messages times time per message. To reduce emails, send fewer yourself, use office hours, delay delivery, and unsubscribe from unnecessary newsletters. To reduce time spent on each, he suggests batching and playtech, categorizing emails by today or this week for scheduled replies. For group chat like Slack, he quotes Jason Fried, who calls it an all-day meeting with random participants and no agenda. The advice: use it sparingly. Schedule time for it and be picky about who's included. Meetings are also prime distraction zones. His fix: require an agenda and a written brief beforehand, and have 1 laptop per meeting to keep everyone present. Then come the device-specific hacks for your smartphone. It's a 4-step process: remove unused apps, replace distracting apps with desktop versions or a wristwatch, which dramatically reduced his phone checking. Rearrange your home screen to only show essential tools and aspirations, and reclaim your notifications. Turning off sounds and visual cues for most apps, using Do Not Disturb features. Your desktop gets similar treatment to Couture it by putting everything in one everything folder, and turn off all desktop notifications. For online articles, he has a strict rule: never read articles in his web browser immediately. Instead, he uses Pocket to save them, and then uses multi-channel and multitasking, like listening to them while exercising, a concept called temptation bundling. And for social media feeds, he suggests browser extensions like Newsfeed, Erratic, or simply bookmarking specific URLs to bypass the endless scroll. Finally, part 4, preventing distraction with pacts. This is about reining ourselves in and removing a future choice in order to overcome our impulsivity. He traces this back to the ancient Ulysses pact, where Ulysses had his men tie him to the mast to resist the siren's song. There are 3 types of pacts. Effort pacts make undesirable actions harder, like using a keysafe to lock up tempting snacks, or apps like Self-Control or Forest that block distracting websites. He even co-works with a friend or uses full compensate to create social pressure to stay on task. And there are price pacts, which put money on the line. He shares a story of a study where smokers who put $150 of their own money down to quit were far more successful than those just offered a reward. He even used the burn or burn method with a $100 bill taped to his calendar, forcing him to either exercise or burn the money. He's never burned the money. He also made a $10 zero price pact to finish this very book. The idea is that losing hurts more than winning feels good. The most powerful pact, though, is the identity pact. This is about changing how you see yourself. He references a study showing that people who called themselves voters were more likely to vote than those who just intended to vote. Similarly, saying "I don't" instead of "I can" when faced with temptation is more empowering, because it defines who you are. So, by embracing the identity of being indistractable, you make choices consistent with that self image. Sharing this identity with others and adopting rituals, like repeating mantras or sticking to a time bound schedule, also reinforces it beyond the individual. Near also looks at how to make your workplace indistractable and how to raise indistractable children. For work, he argues that tech overuse is often a symptom of a dysfunctional company culture, particularly one lacking psychological safety. He highlights companies like Slack, which, despite making a group chat app, actively encourages employees to disconnect and fosters an environment where concerns are openly discussed, even using emoji to acknowledge feedback. For kids, he tackles common convenient excuses parents make, like the sugar high myth or the rebellious teen brain myth. He emphasizes that kids, like adults, need psychological nutrients, autonomy, competence, and relatedness. When these aren't met in the real world, kids often seek them online. The solution isn't just limiting screens, but involving kids and setting their own rules, providing real-world opportunities for play and connection, and most importantly, modeling indistractable behavior ourselves. He tells a great story about his own daughter, who, given the autonomy to decide her screen time, chose a reasonable limit and used a kitchen timer to stick to it. Finally, he applies these principles to indistractable relationships. Even for couples, he shares his personal struggle with his wife, where they were having a love affair with their gadgets, and how they reclaimed their intimacy by moving phones out of the bedroom and using timer-controlled outlets for their internet router. Indistractable isn't about perfection, it's about striving to do what you say you will do. It gives us a comprehensive research-backed framework to understand why we get distracted and what to do about it. It's a reminder that we have far more power over our attention than we realize. This book offers incredibly concrete, manageable strategies, and it will fundamentally change the way you manage your time and attention, helping you live a more intentional and fulfilling life. So, if you're tired of feeling scattered and drained in an increasingly distracting world, give Indistractable a read. It truly feels like the skill of the century.